And we're live. Welcome back to the preview for the Brighton game, FA Cup, special time of the year, third round. That's where it all starts. And at this moment, we have the big dream. But will we be there come, 7 o'clock tonight, waiting for the draw for the fourth round tomorrow? And that's what we're going to go over today. So there's been a few things said in the press conference. There's been a few things expected from the fan base. So we'll address all of that today. And, get in the comments, hit the like, hit the subscribe, and make sure you hit that bell as well. Straight off, hi, welcome. Irish straight in, or as I should say, Danny. When they're going to give us our names back on YouTube, that would be so much easier. We're going to go over the starting 11. I'll start with the Brighton starting 11. I much prefer doing it sort of now. I know we're going to have the confirmed in a few hours, but doing these previews 3 days before, so much can change. Injuries can be picked up. And I like to leave it to the last possible moment, really. So let me just get the Brighton team up on the screen. Let's have a look. Right. Obviously, these are the expected starting 11s based on Premier League games and things like that. We all know third round of the FA Cup can be a massive difference. And we'll come to what I'm just about to say with the United team probably a lot more. But squad rotation is normally used. Depends what you think about your season, where you think you're going, how much you need to focus on hitting those European spots, which Brighton have sort of dropped away from over the last 2 years. And, for those who aren't aware, I live about 15 miles from the Amex and about 5 miles from the actual training ground. And I have friends that actually live right next door to some of the players, including a certain Carlos, who lives in a little town called Sompton. He'll say he lives in Sompton. Technically, we call it North Lancing, but that's not a good thing. So I do have some normally inside information. You would have heard me on Tactical Devils when people talk about the Baleba deal, and I'm going, no contact's been made. They never contacted the club. It was all intermediaries. So I do have some information on Brighton sometimes. Other times, not so much, as they are very well run, very tight knit club with no information coming out. What's this? That young Greek striker is going to be a top player in the summer. Potentially. I can't disagree with that. So, right, where are we at? Let's go. So Matoma, obviously, we know he's, hard to come by. The back four, Dunk, Van Hecken, great. They've come together quite well. It's always been a great partnership over the last few seasons. Hinshaw Wood, actually know a few people that know his dad really well, so his work ethic is top notch. Actually, my little town I live in, Worthing, his dad used to be the manager of their side. Worthing are in Conference South, National League South, whatever you want to call it. They're in the same league as Dorking Wanderers and people like that. But Kodologu, maybe. I found him hit or miss this season. Gomez seems a good player, but the one I'm scared about, and most United players have got to be scared about, why did they have to sign him back so quick? Pascal Gross, back from Borussia Dortmund. He's been a pain in the arse for us. I think it's 7 goals in 15 games against Manchester United, League and Cup. He really does know how to find the net. I'll be honest, some of those goals were against Onana and they should have been stopped, but, that's neither here or there. I do expect Gross to get minutes, so he probably will start. As for the rotation, it's going to be here or there. They play 4-2-3-1. I expect us to play the same formation. They're going to be more drilled in it, but we have the better quality of player. I think that's fair to say. So I don't know what other people are thinking about today. Let's have a look. Yeah, Danny likes Gomez. Matona versus Dallo will be scary. It will be, but again, like I just said, I'm not even sure if Matoma will start. Just because of where we are in the season. I don't know Brighton's fixtures inside out. Obviously, we might even rotate some players because we've got the City and Arsenal games coming up. So they're more important to not lose than this game right now, just because we've dropped a couple of places in the league. So I've got hiccups. That's always happens when you go live. Never good. So yeah, I feel that this is a must-win competition for United every single year. For me, it is the be-all and end-all of English football is the FA Cup. Always has been, always will be. So I'm going to get rid of that. Let's get rid of the Brighton, and let's just sort of. We played Brighton in the 3-5-2 or 3-5-1, whatever formation you want to really call that we play under Amarin. We got a decent 4-2 win. They didn't turn up, and Believer looked terrible. Obviously, they were without him today. So, same as us. They could play Believer technically. He could be on the bench. We could stack our bench with. And Burmo could go on there. I think Harry Maguire will still be on there because obviously they are out the AFCON now. Ahmad obviously went out last night as well. I doubt he'll make the bench, but I could see us just putting players on the bench, maybe not to come on, but to make our bench look stronger. Because let's be fair, if a player's out injured and they're close to coming back, there's no harm in having them on the bench and maybe they don't get on. I'd rather see that. Well, Danny, I don't know if you think I'm not confident or you mean you're not confident, but it's Brighton, and for a long time now, it's always been a hard game to call. So, yeah, I do get what you're saying. I will let's put up our starting 11 while we talk anyway. I think obviously Lamens in goal. And then I think we pretty much start the same. There could be two changes I would personally make, but this is from FootMob. This is the expected starting 11. I feel that Dorgu and Heaven could come out today. I think Heaven. It's hard because he doesn't deserve to be dropped. But I felt the two left-footed centre-backs wasn't helping us with passing lanes and getting the ball out. So whenever they got it, their natural look is towards Casemiro and whoever's playing on the right, be it Cunha, Dorgu or Dallo getting forward. So we never had to switch over to the left. So I could see Euro coming in and playing the right-sided centre-back just to give us, an out like that and an out like that, rather than just everyone's out being to the same direction. It's an absolute nightmare when you do that. So it does make sense. Again, a lot of people would say maybe drop Shaw, play Martinez left back, and then you could have the two young centre backs. But of course, then they're young, and that just gives us more experience. I do, like I said, Maguire was on the bench for the last game. He could start and he could get just half a game. But I'm not sure Brighton's the right team to bring it in. I'd rather bring him on for like the last half an hour. Would probably be the best scenario. Just get minutes into the legs, and then he can continue after the game, come back in, and they go back out and do the box-to-box running after. And obviously the player Dorgu on the right, I love. Dorgu on the left, I'm sceptical of. But I'm going to jump straight in because I know people are thinking it. I've seen it all over social media this week. But keep Cunha on the left. Shea Lacey starts on the right as the right-sided, of a three. So I like to call this 3 10s. So it's 2 holding and then 3 10s, and they play behind a striker, and then they just move around. What I don't like about playing Shea Lacey, and this is controversial, and this is just my opinion, I'm not sure of Shea Lacey playing alongside Bruno Fernandes. Bruno Fernandes shouts at players constantly, and it's just his way of being a captain and his way of talking. He talks about his arm movements, but it's just the way he looks and tells someone when they're not doing what they should be doing. When really he should be shouting at a mirror, because 9 times out of 10 he hasn't done his job, and then he shouts at someone else. But Shea Lacey, FA Cup magic, is certainly the thing Man United is built across. The years where the youngsters come in for the FA Cup match, the Carabao Cup matches, as it used to be, the Milk Cup or whatever. But your Beckhams, your Nevilles, Scholes, but they all came through, and that's where they got their first starts. But we can't do that because obviously we don't have that kind of background anymore, because we went and lost to Grimsby. So this is the only chance to give those youngsters probably starting minutes, feel what it's like to walk out, at Old Trafford, starting 11, 75,000 people will go mental seeing the youngsters come on. I expect Obi to be on the bench as well, maybe today. All of you thinking Heaven's going to be given, not Heaven, sorry, JJ Gabriel's going to be given a chance. If you heard the manager's press conference in the embargo section, he was asked about JJ, and he's quite honest. He's saying how much talent he's got. He's got a bright future, but he's nowhere near ready, and he doesn't think any manager would be picking him at the moment, just based on timing. Timing is not right for a 15-year-old to come in, which is probably a way of saying he's still got a lot to learn. So yeah, but talk to me. Come back in the comments. Come in the chat. How do we feel about Ugarte? Ugarte against this, midfield with Brighton. He will be up against Pascal Gross. They will have to play more as a defensive double pivot than Ugarte getting forward. He's the one who worries me. I would rather see Mainu maybe get the minutes today. If we're thinking Lacey, Maguire, surely Mainu starts, depending how fit he has been. Maybe Mount comes in as well. We could see 5 or 6 changes with youngsters and who deserves minutes. But where do we feel as fans? Are we feeling that the FA Cup is a must go for right now, because it's a backup to get back into Europe? Win that, we're in the Europa League no matter what. But obviously we want to push for Champions League and fifth spot, which I'm sure we will get. But I am worried still that we may sack off the FA Cup and go all out for the league. And yeah, it's a hard one. It is a hard one. So yeah, what would you like? Let me know. But today's game, 4:30 kickoff. All eyes will be on us. That's not necessarily a good thing. Hasn't been for a while now, where we are constantly not living up to the potential the players have when all eyes are on us. So if we were kicking off at 2 o'clock, like most of the games, I feel that they know that the whole world won't be watching. They'll be watching other games. 4:30, I'm not sure what channel it's on. I haven't actually checked, so if someone can let me know. But it's normally a terrestrial match. It's one of the biggest matches. So yeah, it's where we failed to take this chance to move into 4th, to move into 2nd, 3rd, 5th all season. Is this time of day? We either have early kickoffs or all eyes are on us, and we bottled it. So it does concern me. Obviously, like I said, FA Cup is all dependent on what team we come up against and what team we want to start. So there's a lot to take into account. Danny, yeah, I've seen your comments. Kate, yeah, that's yeah. I'll start. You start Ugarte, Mainu, and bench Casemiro, and have his legs in the second half if needed. Whereas I think Casemiro is not necessarily a great player to come off the bench. So I just feel he's never used to being on the bench in his career. So some of those players do struggle. He certainly doesn't like it when he gets pulled off. So maybe he wouldn't like starting there. But in the changing room, I think he'll still be giving it his all, geeing up those young players. So we'll see. We will see. I don't know if people saw the Darren Fletcher comment or even remembered it. But he got pulled up in a press conference about what was it? He made a comment about a caretaker manager isn't the right thing for Manchester United before the Jose Mourinho when he was sacked and Ollie came in. And I thought he spoke so well and backed the credibility of the journalists for actually researching that and finding out, because he's right, and yet now he's got to own it. So when Jose went and we brought in, he was interviewed and asked, I think he was technical director at the time, and he was asked, but he doesn't really feel that that's the right path for Man United. We go out, we buy we don't sack a manager until we got the right person lined up, which is probably what we've all felt. But where we are as a club now is very different, and maybe it's not as straightforward as we just can go out, click our fingers, and a manager turns up on our doorstep ready to go. If you think a lot of our interim managers have gone wrong, and it's really worth listening to what they say. I had a video this morning on TikTok where someone came back and called Fletcher a company man, and he'll do and say whatever it is to keep the Glazers happy. I disagree. I hope most fans would disagree, because I see him as loyal to Alex Ferguson rather than ever being anything to be a puppet along the Glazers. But because he wants to keep his under-18s role, and I think he's enjoying that, I think he's just sort of keeping it a little bit quiet. So he just towed the line, sort of saying that, things have changed, and if that's the step that the board now feels they should take, we have a different board to what we had back under Jose Mourinho, and he sees things differently. So I think that's fair enough to say that. So let's get rid of this and remove that. So yeah, there wasn't much in the interviews really for this game. No real surprise. The journalists are absolute joke, because all they want to do is ask questions about what's going on at the club, players, transfers, and they never ask about the match when it comes to Man United. I quite often watch the other managers. I didn't watch Brighton's press conference because I just haven't had time over this weekend. But they're always asked about formations, always asked about how they're going to cope with Man United's front line, or they're going to play three at the back. So they always ask questions about the other team. But when you watch a Man United press conference, unless it's a European one, and it's normally from that country's journalists that we're playing against, no one asks about the other team. And it gets quite boring, but this is why we see the same questions over and over again. The 18s played yesterday morning, I do believe, and the 21s will probably play midweek. In answer to your question there, Danny. So it doesn't really give much away. He asked about how we would play going forward, and he still thinks we should play the United way, strong attacking formation. It'll stay with four at the back. So it'll basically be a 4-3-3 or 4-2-3-1, whichever way you sort of want to interpret it. He spoke about how, as a team, we create loads of chances this season, but we've got to stop conceding the silly goals, and we need to defend more as a team. And to a lot of the fan base, that normally means that Bruno has to do his job of, if he's been given this role where he's going to be more creative in the 10, he still needs to sprint back as if he's playing in that double pivot with Casemiro from under Amorim. I understood that's why he put him there, so he didn't get so far forward and couldn't get back. Whereas in this formation, I feel he has more of an open, just go out, express yourself, create chances. But I can't ever be expecting him to be told not to defend, because I want to see a 4-5-1 defensive formation, or even if it's a 4-4-2, and he stays forward as Sesko. Sesko's getting back in the last game further than what Bruno was quicker. So I feel that's something to keep an eye on today. I feel they'll still manage his minutes, maybe 45, 60 minutes for Bruno, changing for Mason Mount, maybe 45 each would be my ideal situation, depending on how the game goes. So that's one thing to keep an eye on. But Fletcher is definitely talking about telling Sesko to get in the box, telling, what we would all tell people. If we went back 20 years, if you're old enough to go back 20, 25 years, Ferguson always used to say, get the ball in the box. You're a striker, you get in the box. Midfielders, create the chance. Get the ball behind, turn them around, run at them, play the passes, play forward, get the ball in the box. And then you've got a chance of scoring goals. Football is that simple. You can't score if you don't get the ball in the box. 30 shots in our last game, 10 on target. It's not good enough. That's not good enough. That means we're having too many shots from outside of the box, or we're just swinging a foot at it and missing. Sesko scored 2. I think he should have definitely had a hat-trick. I think he missed 2 really simple chances after he's got his second, that he should have been scoring. I'm always going to be critical of him because I feel we have to. It's not about not liking him. It's about improving him. It's about, great, he got in the box. Bruno found that run. I've seen him make those runs many a time, and we haven't found him. In that match, it happened. Today, it needs to happen again. It needs not to be a one-off. We need to make diagonal runs from Cunha, whoever they play as the other third player, be it Dorgu, Shea Lacey, or anyone like that. It could even be Mantaro. He could give Mantaro minutes because he's also made his debut, and maybe it's his chance. Maybe even Obi. Obi gets on. He's got to make diagonal runs across the centre-back and in behind so they can't cut it off, instead of running just straight behind the centre-back and they can intercept. And those silly little improvements in today's game, we'll see. Fletcher's working on that. So really that leaves us one elephant in the room I've not spoken about. I've deliberately left it till the end. And that is the return of the bus, shall we call it. We don't know who's going to be driving it. We don't know if it's going to officially be announced after this game. But I think we're 90% sure Ollie is at the wheel. Carrick could be behind him. And we don't know who else will come back in with that coaching staff, because they're not there. Whether Fletcher and Binion do a double header, they do the 18s and the 21s. I can't see that, because if we have a game on a Saturday, do the 18s. The under 18s play on a Saturday morning, and then we play on the Saturday afternoon, 3 o'clock kickoff. If it's an away game, they're not going to be there. So it's still going to leave the bench quite open, and they are going to need to be replaced. Rude's the dark horse, not people talking about it. I can't see it. I thought we mistreated Rude. We took him as a coach. We gave him the job. He'd done the best he could. And then we just sacked him off. We didn't even keep him as a coach. Now, we know that was on Amorim. He wanted to bring all his own coaches in. But I think it was stupid. The club could have said, no, he's still employed by us. We keep him. And obviously, he went on to the Leicester, doing the Leicester role. And that didn't happen. I wouldn't mind. Maybe Ollie tells Rude to come back in. Maybe he does. There's names we could chuck out as ex-players. Wayne Rooney, maybe Evans stays on that coaching staff. And let's Fletcher just go back down to the 18s and Evans stays with Ollie. The big one, it's never going to happen. I'm going to say it every single time until we get a full-time manager. Keno in there, having a punch up with Bruno or something. You could see it happening. That's why it won't, because he will call him out. But it's not just about ex players coming in. There are plenty of top coaches that are available. So no reason we can't get Savvy, 18 months, 2-year deal now. Board are incompetent. I don't disagree with wanting Savvy, but that 18 months, 2-year deal is still got to bring in all his coaches and staff and everything and getting it in place. I wouldn't mind it. I said in the last show when I done the special broadcast about the breaking news that Savvy is on my list of 3 with Nagelsmann and Tuchel. I generally think that Thomas Tuchel could be the replacement in the summer after England, which means he could line up his own coaches. They won't necessarily be the England coaches, because I can't see Ashley Cole and people like that coming to Manchester United. Maybe it happens. Gabriel Heinze, ex-United, is at Arsenal, so it could happen. But I can't see it personally with the coaches, but I can see it with the manager. But the interim thing is, Danny, I get it. I think it's where we all sit on the bench. If Fletcher is managing, it's not like we've just appointed a random person to take charge, which it sort of felt like we did with Ollie. Ollie had been in management. He was nowhere near good enough coming up, but he knew the club. But before, we've chucked Ryan Giggs in charge. Straight off the coaching staff, Giggsy, you take it. So we're doing the same again now with Fletcher. So I do agree in that respect. Sometimes knowing the club is not the same as geeing the players up and knowing how to tactically respond. But it's funny, isn't it, how our fan base will criticise Amorim for not knowing the Premier League, not responding to what's happening on the pitch. But yet we won't criticise an ex-player for doing exactly the same thing. So that's where I will defend any coach, anytime. It takes time, and unless you're going out and going straight away for Glasner and people like that, thank God. Yesterday, Glasner, well, has he tarnished? Here's a question. Here's a question for everyone. Come back in the comments after the video. Glasner has just stopped us from being the laughing stock of the cups by losing 2-1 to Macclesfield, which is worse than us losing to Grimsby on penalties. So, if Amorim wasn't good enough because he lost to Grimsby, but Glasner, with a strong enough side, lost to Macclesfield, is he now the right person? Or is that a one-off? Cup magic. I believe in cup magic. I believe in upsets and the other team going out there and wanting it more than the Premier League side when they're so much further down the table. It's a be-all and end-all. They might only get that one chance to play against a Premier League team. So they go out as if they're possessed. So I get that. But yeah, picking the worst time to get managers this summer with the World Cup. But I think picking it now, by dragging this out, what the club is doing is avoiding having to spend money. And that's not really something I want to go into in this preview. I don't want to talk about the transfers, but just remember, the longer we don't replace a manager, the longer we don't need to bring in players for that manager. And an interim manager is not going to get a say on players. So it will all be on Wilcox. So any players that did magically turn up in January, they're from Wilcox. If we allow Gallagher not to be good enough for us, but he goes to, Aston Villa, who are sitting, second, third, who are absolutely flying, and we would take their manager, that means he would also want Gallagher. Then maybe Amorim was right. Maybe that link was right. And maybe there's something more about that player that the scouts have picked up, but we don't as fans. I don't think anyone here is constantly watching every single Atletico match. But what I will say is, you play under Simeone, you are one hell of a disciplined player, and you do your job. So that's one thing I will say. I love Simeone as a manager. I think mainly only people like myself, Paul Scholes, Roy Keane, they wouldn't be shouting Simeone as a United manager because of the way he plays. It's the fact that he takes no shit and he will give everything and anything and do whatever it takes to win a game. We all know about the dark arts. So Gallagher, bringing those dark arts with him, with Casemiro, Bruno, they're meant to know the dark arts under the Brazilian and Portugal way and the Spanish football connection with Casemiro. So it wouldn't be bad. Don't really have a number one choice manager, but with the owners, doesn't matter who the manager is. So, Danny, you're using the term manager. Obviously, a lot of people say manager, but that the club's going to want a head coach because we have a director of football. So it is someone who's going to be told to coach the players that are bought. And that's where we're always going to have a breakdown in communication. Even a head coach is going to say, I will coach whoever you give me, but you need to get me this one player because it's going to make that. Do you see what I mean? So I've never understood it, why we had to change the terminology from manager to head coach. Because at the end of the day, whoever comes in is going to see a pinnacle player he needs in that squad to make it work. So, yeah, I do. I get what you're saying. I wasn't criticising you, but you are right. You are right. It's all on the owners and the board and things like that. And at the moment, maybe we're going to start looking at other potential Man City candidates for Manchester United, because we all know that Amorim was on the top of the list to replace Pep. And since Wilcox has come in, there is about 5 or 6 ex-City employees who have now come into the club in the roles of like data and things like that. So that's a problem I have. Prem proven manager is probably the best. Is it? Is it though? Because let's have a look at the top. Slot won it last year with Liverpool. He's still in the top 4 now. You've got obviously Jurgen Klopp was not Prem proven. Pep wasn't Prem proven. Yes, they've done stuff in other leagues, but definitely I can say with Klopp, having and wanting him as the Man United manager before he ever went to Liverpool, because I knew how he was at Borussia Dortmund. He never was winning anything with them, but he'd done a great job. Ancelotti, you definitely can't call him Prem proven because the job he did at Everton was terrible, but you take him. There are managers out there, but a lot of YouTube channels and media outlets would make you think that there isn't, and Prem proven is the way forward. You've got to remember, if the best managers are above us in the league, then we're only taking a Prem proven manager who deserves to come up. One of the ones we were speaking about just last summer, or the last 2 summers, was has now taken the Tottenham role from Brentford. Thomas Frank gone to Tottenham, and where are Tottenham? They're still pretty much fighting it out with where they finished last year. Nothing's changed under getting rid of Big Ange and bringing in Frank. So he's Prem proven. What we need is a disciplinarian. What we need is someone who says, you will do as I say, and if you don't, you will sit on that bench. I don't give a shit what's in your contract, whether you have minutes to play, whether your board has said you have to play. That's what this club needs, and that's what we won't get. That's why we'll never get a Simeone. I believe Simeone could come in and manage at this club. He's been 15 years Atletico. So you can't tell me he hasn't played enough Premier League teams in that, over that time, studied enough Premier League football for different European competitions. So there are things like that to take into account. The fact Company went to Bayern Munich, would we have taken Company at Man United, but he can go and manage at Bayern Munich? It's just something to think about. It is just something to think about. When people chuck this around, it's like, well, what has that manager done? So, yeah, I think we really should just move on now to score predictions. Danny, I'm guessing you're going to predict that we go out because you said earlier that you weren't feeling confident. It's very hard. I'm expecting us to put out quite a strong side with 1 or 2 changes. I think that we can get out of there with maybe a 2-1, a 3-2. We win by the 1 goal and we move on. FA Cup is magical, and my heart is telling me, imagine we win by that 1 goal, and it is one of those youngsters that comes on, be it Mantaro, Shea Lacey, or even Cody Main, who steps up and scores like he did in the cup final, and we move through to the next round. It's just about getting in that next round. I will take 1-0, from a corner that deflects and goes in. I'm happy, but I think maybe 2-1 today, and I'm gonna go with an under 21 scoring. So that's what I feel. 3-2 from Danny. Anyone else wants to put it in? I see there's a few other people watching. But yeah, what I might do today, I might pop back on after the match later on tonight and do a breakdown. Because Monday nights I will be on the Tactical Devils as well. So I'd rather have my say on here than on there, naturally, for you guys. So before I go, can I just remind you all to hit the like, hit the subscribe, follow me over on some of my other platforms on X or on YouTube. On YouTube, on TikTok, where there's obviously other content will go out. And most importantly, and there's one which most people forget about, hit that bell notification, subscribe to all, and then you'll be able to see every time I go live. Okay, so from me, wish us all the best in the FA Cup, and I will catch you all again on the United Lens. Thank you for joining.